Well, hello there. This is a slightly different video from the sort of thing that you're going to see, but this is going to show you where I'm starting with this particular production. I've got to make an advert for the book that I've written, well, several books that I'm currently writing. And what I want to try and do, at least for the initial one, I might do some more in the future, but I want to try and do a sort of parody or homage to 1950s sort of commercials, really. Partly because they're fun, and partly because they're fundamentally easier to make puppets for. I've got to try and get this done fairly quickly. So, but they are fun to do. And what I wanted to do was show you basically what I've come up with, and then over the next few weeks show you the process of making the thing. So, you know, give you an idea of what I'm making, how I'm making it, and then also if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll have the option to download some of the puppets that I make, so you can really see and get to grips with them. Some of them are going to be very polished and very finished, and some of them are going to be very rough around the edges because they don't need to be polished. You know, if you're doing this for an advert, some of the stuff I'll go into a bit more detail because I like to, and I want to experiment with a concept that I've never done before, and I think, oh, that seems to work quite well. You know, the good thing about an advert like this is that it does give you the scope to experiment with certain ideas. So it fulfills quite a few criteria in my life generally. I'm able to experiment, I'm able to make something that allows me to advertise, and it also allows you to see what I'm doing and to sort of, you know, see how a sort of production is done. So what I thought I'd do is I'll show you the kind of thing that I was inspired by. Now there's quite a lot of 50s commercials that you can see on YouTube for nothing. And all of these commercials are, you know, very much of the time. What I quite liked about all of these things is that there's a simplicity to them, which I really appreciate. There's not an awful lot in terms of detail here, you know, very, very crude lines and you know, basic work, but there's something very straightforward about the way that these things are able to convey information. As I've explained, or I will explain, if you look at something like this, an advert for Mr. Clean, there's nothing to this except one piece of background. There's nothing else, so it's just a completely grey blank space. And not only is that practical, it does allow for, and you can get it done quickly, but it also means that the imagery that you're seeing is clearly shown. You know, you're not cluttered with too much information around it, you know. So I think that's one of the things that I really like about this style of work, is that it's, in terms of the theatre of the piece, you're able to see very clearly what you need to see. You know, it's able to show you the storytelling because there's nothing else cluttering the screen up. And I love that. Any good quality animation, doesn't matter how advanced, has that basic principle, you know. In this shot, for example, there's nothing else going on except one character talking to another. It's almost hieroglyphic in the clarity. And that was very important for the time because, you know, you had a very small television screen to see this on. It had to be very clearly marked. Characters went from very detailed on the cinema to these very simple stylized shapes. In fact, Mr. Clean here is very detailed in comparison to the rest. So, you know, and these very broad, sweeping shapes that you get with characters like that, with just one line to sort of pull the whole thing over, is very, very, you know, it's very interesting. And it's been very useful to me to figure out. And, you know, when you're figuring things out in the style of a time, you know, you do go through a lot of these sort of mood boards and you do think, okay, I like the ideas behind this and I like the ideas behind that. So what I've done is I'm trying to sort of distill that into styles and then putting my own sort of spin on things. Some of these characters, as you can see, don't fit that entirely. Because what I want to try and do is, I've got characters that are essentially put upon hopeless souls that are cooking. That's the theme, that it's cookery, because the whole idea behind my books is that it's sort of like a recipe book, you know, that you're creating recipes for Toon Boom Harmony. And rather than a how-to book, I wanted it to be fresh, and the idea that it's more to do with just so that you didn't think that it was such a dirge of following instructions, that it's more fun, like a cookery book. It tends to inspire you more with the idea of ingredients and going cookery. It seems to excite more, I think, than, okay, step one, step two. It can be more exciting. So that was the theme. And you've got, as I say, put upon cleaners there, cook there rather, housewife, and just very basic general shapes and, you know, bits and pieces that sort of are put together to create the overall effect. So I'm going to make those characters, and then for some of these other characters, these are going to be more coloured. They're going to be more put together, that as if to say, hang on, this is the sort of bad quality work that they're doing, which actually, I mean, this was the other thing, the so-called, in inverted commas, bad creations that are being created are still quite fun to look at, and I was trying desperately to make them look really bad, but even this I still quite like. It's sort of deliberately bad, but I still quite like him. Anyway, this is the creations that are before the book that I make, and then these are the creations afterwards, you know, so they have to be visibly very different and colourful as well. The idea that sort of colour comes into your life when you use my book. So that was the idea behind the advert. And you got these very broad overall shapes that were very popular at the time, just one idea of a character. So you got a very obvious silhouette, you know, that kind of thing, of a man flipping burgers. So there's some other ideas here, sort of based on the time. Here's another sort of overall character here, a bigger lady, making a cake, again with a background which is incredibly basic. There's not anything going on here at all, except just the broad basic information that you need to know. Here's one of the creations that isn't so good, but again, I quite like it. But it's so obviously bad, but it's good. I like it. Anyway, it's one of those sort of situations, you know, what can you do? Here is a, inverted commas, bad dog, and then eventually they become these. I'm not sure about his character design. I may go through an alteration for him. As I say, I think I've already made some changes. And the dog, I'll go through some changes there. Yeah, it's that kind of concept that eventually, you know, along come the cats with the book and transform the lives of the creators in there. So that's the kind of thing. And what I've got is just a little demo of the Animatic with the music that I've made to sort of show you what kind of thing that I'm going to be doing. So I'll just play it. Hopefully it'll come through on the speakers. Otherwise I'll just have to add this in post.
If your Kaboom Work is rusty and your pockets are stiff with gloom, you should look between the covers of Ollie's brand new book, Kaboom. If your pockets creak and stiffen like a zombie stuck in a tube, that's the time you read what's written and bounce back with Ollie's Kaboom. If your animation suffers and your deadline starts to loom, you should look between the covers and fly high with Ollie's Kaboom.
So that's what I've come up with at the moment. I think I need to tighten up the sound of the lyrics a little bit more, but and I'll certainly put some captions on and all that sort of stuff. But it's that kind of thing that I'm going for. I think it's about, what is it? How long is it? Yes, just under a minute. And then yeah, that's the advert that will carry the whole series through. But yeah, that's what I'm coming up with. So if you want to look at how I'm making the thing, please, you know, if you pop along to my channel just to sort of dip in and out to see the progress of me working on these. and then just making the shots bit by bit. And then if you really want to, you can join my Patreon and download some of the puppets and have a look round. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what I'm currently working on, what I'm doing, and then yeah, if you like it, please drop a like, subscribe, all that malarkey. And this advert should be around in the next couple of months. Yeah. All right. Look forward to seeing you, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.